Hi friends, I am walking in the rain, which is better than not walking in the rain. I was thinking about this conversation while I was in the shower, and I wish I kind of could have been able to talk there, but buttons and water, they're not so good together, I don't feel. And I'm just barely navigating that shit as it is, so I try not to do anything that's going to make more problems, And I want to talk just for a small second, probably too many minutes, but whatever, about inner child work, shadow work, whatever the fuck you like to call it, and why do that to yourself. For me, I feel like it definitely, and I guess that's probably most people, but I haven't Googled how do you do this shit and figured it out. I've just been doing all of my self-healing intuitively. And I think that I was kind of trying to not do this because it sucks. Sucks. And not the good fucking suck, the worst suck, And so anyway, why do that to yourself? Because there is something about, I don't know the age. For me, I've heard other people say around 7. I've heard people say around 10. I believe it starts way sooner than that. I'm thinking 3 or 4, maybe 2. I don't know, maybe 2. But as a little person, when you are figuring out your way in the world, when you're not understanding things and things happen to you, you transmute them the best way that you know how. And for children, it's usually by behaving to not find the, displeasure. So usually, and this is pretty general, but not untrue, usually children would like to please their parent, which is logical, I guess. I don't really need to go all there, but the thing is, as me, I am 40 years old, so my parents, and I just realized I left out the house without a mask in the middle of COVID, so I'm gonna walk back, and I'm just gonna not scream about any of this. I'm probably gonna scream about all of this, but anyway, I guess I didn't get all the way to the store, right? So anyway, when you're very young and you don't understand things, you begin to be molded by the adults or other people around you. And you start to process how to behave, how to respond, how to please them, how to not please them, what to avoid. And a lot of times we do these things in our mind and we kind of just draw conclusions from the things around us. And it's never discussed. It just kind of gets laid down underground piping, plumbing even. And we get older and we learn and we just kind of just keep adding on top of that. So while I feel when I was very young, I was sort of taught to not speak so much, that sort of message. Okay. Oh no, it's shit, y'all. So that sort of message kept me safer as a small child from getting into trouble, which is what I wanted to not do. I didn't want to get in trouble. I didn't want to anger my parents. So I learned how to be quiet. I was also simultaneously being trained, proper word, that there are roles that men have and roles that women have, and to be a super pleasing person, it would be in my best interest to take those roles and to do my very best job to be that role of a girl, of a female person, which meant the caretaker or the doer, the cleaner, the cooker. Excuse me, the burper. Not the burper, that is definitely man stuff. The not talk backer. Do not ask questioner. God, please don't sing. Like all those things. So I kind of did that, but I kind of like skated around it until I was old enough to start. I don't think I was old enough too, but old enough that I started like being interested in boys. Well, now I've learned about the be quiets, and I was kind of like Mead's rebellion. Like I was still kind of noisy, and it kind of made me happy because me and my mom would like riff a lot, and she was always working her fucking ass off, and I just resented her for it because she was just pissed all the time, and I couldn't figure out what the fuck her problem was. Go figure, right? So, but you know, I was fucking young, and I had been trained that women are supposed to shut up and make food and smile, you know? So I couldn't figure out what the fuck was wrong with her. So then I started seeing boys. They were boys. And I tried to follow the rules, and that got me into a couple of fucked up situations. And then those pipes started being laid, like how to behave in a relationship and how to not behave in a relationship. And, you know, the rules and things there in that space. So all that to say is the things that we think aren't important as a kid or, you know, not a big deal. It's just not true. Like each time something happens and it's processed, there is emotional feedback being stored in your body, emotional memories. And then the real kicker is, all that is also connected to like our stream of consciousness and our intuition. And the further disconnected we allow ourselves to be trained away from that, the harder it is to figure out who we really are once we want to step away from that, you know? And for me, my first attempt was, I just won't date boys anymore. I liked girls too, so it just made sense. I was like, I'll just skip that. B, you know, I just picked door B. Like, it was easy. I mean, easy as in, well, yeah, I guess it was easy. So, and for a little while, that was good, you know, in that space for that spot. But then the whole, like, other part started about the proper roles for the caretaker person, and that includes your partners, you know. And it wasn't really long before I found myself kind of being like a mom in the girl relationships. And I'm like, this isn't really what I was going for either. Yeah. And each time I would shift and try something different, instead of just like working and trying to figure out through myself and inside of myself, like what it was that I was missing or wanting, I just kept assuming that I was doing it all wrong because that's what I was trained as a kid. There was probably, obviously, clearly something wrong with me. But yeah, like, now there were some parts about this that I feel like I love. You know, I have had many relationships, and some long and some short, and boys and girls. And I feel like, for the most part, I'm really friends with almost all of them. Maybe not this current one soon because, you know, probably eventually, maybe, if he lives. Shut up, Nancy, because I'm not going to murder him. I'm saying that out loud. I will not murder. But anyway, this guy just walked past me like, oh, shit. Anyway, so, you know, like, I feel like, you know, I was trained to be so codependent on other people's feelings about me and what was appropriate from and of me and what made me worthy to be around, what made me useful, what made me attractive or deserving, you know, all that shit. And yeah, so you know, through this healing work, I have learned that, you know, as a human, I'm just born deserving to be loved, because we all are. We are an extension of fucking God. Of course God deserves to be loved. Are you silly? Like, but also, I learned that my parents were raised from their parents, and their parents from their parents. And this is an evolution. This is a fucking species evolution, and we're kind of slow. Momentum is slow when you're talking about like gaggles of fucking generations, you know? So there were parts of this work where I felt so angry and gypped, you know, and fucking angry. I wish I brought my sunglasses. I'm not going back for them. This is the second time I've made it up this hill. So, you know, and this moon, I decided I'm letting the blame go. And initially I thought it was just around my current situation, but it isn't. It's so much bigger than that. It's the blame of feeling like things were taken away or not available to me. It's the blame of myself for running away from it in every direction possible. You know, it's, you know, mostly, and that's, I think, is mostly it. It's like the blame. And yeah, like even letting myself feel responsible for making someone so upset that they would hurt me so bad, you know? Because somewhere in my brain, I remembered admiring the person before they hurt me, so clearly it had to be my fault, you know? Even as a little kid. And that's not okay. And it didn't really come clear in my mind that that was still happening as an adult until like just last night, literally. Like I know all these other things, but there was still something that was like jacked in my shit, and I could not figure it out. And honestly, I didn't look at all the details. I went back far enough to hear enough, and I literally feel like I jumped out. That sounds really weird, but I was like meditating and practicing, and I asked to go, and I just heard that it was my fault. And I remembered feeling that I was bad for being in that space, that what had happened to me was my fault because I encouraged it of the person, and I let that manifest into my life. So every time something bad happened to me, it had to be my fault. And every time it happened to me, I would try to change myself enough so that I wouldn't do that to myself again, you know? And that's fucked up. It's fucked up when you're not able to see it and say it out loud, because it turns like you against yourself in the most like intimate and painful and cruel ways. Like no one knew what I would do inside of my mind to myself or say. You know, there was so much that it felt like the double life thing or triple life, God knows how many, probably just a few, but that's another story. But you know, it's like that process of letting yourself be back in that space to remember, you know, well, why do I think this way? Why do I feel that way? Why is this